My name is Patrick Sun, and I would like to thank you for taking the time to view this debate. Topic: Resolved. The United Nations should adopt a resolution decrying or demanding an end to the annual dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan. Proposition counterpoints. My opponent has stated that it is the responsibility of the UN to put an end to the dolphin drive hunts that occur annually in Taiji, Japan. However, I firmly disagree with my opponent on this point. The duties of the UN include peacekeeping and security, human rights, economic development, humanitarian assistance, and environmental programs. The UN is not the appropriate actor to undertake the task of halting drive hunts in Taiji. Furthermore, if tasked with this duty, I believe the UN would not be able to appropriately address the issue, as they are presently involved in over 15 separate missions internationally that are of more importance and in line with their organizational goals. My opponent has also stated that the continuation of drive hunting presents possible international threats to Japan. This is inaccurate, though, as dolphin hunting is not illegal internationally and is still practiced in Denmark, Norway, and the Solomon Islands. My opponent has also addressed the issue regarding the inhumane killing methods being used and the attempts to hide these methods from the public via the placement of concealment tarps. However, the killing method has been vastly refined to be quick and painless for the dolphins, involving a rod being shot into the brain or spine of the animal in the same way U.S. cattle ranchers operate, and the tarps being used are to protect the fishermen from protesters, as attempts to halt operations by these groups have escalated to the point where Japanese law enforcement is now forced to intervene. My opponent addressed outcry from ambassadors to Japan in response to these events. However, what she has failed to include is that Ambassador Kennedy's comments spurred little Western reaction, only generating 1,000 comments directly supporting her claim, which is a drop in the bucket by comparison to the vast online community, as well as failing to also address the disdain generated by the proponents of Kennedy's comments, whom have repeatedly accused the ambassador of attempting to step on long-held Japanese traditions with little respective knowledge to reinforce her claims outside of the wildly popular 2010 documentary The Cove, which has been repeatedly discredited as biased and inaccurate in the time since its release. My opponent has acknowledged the unusually high levels of mercury found in dolphin meat as well, though failed to include the data collected by the National Institute for Minamata Disease, who in 2008 publicly released the full data collected in their study of mercury poisoning in consumers of dolphin meat. Their study concluded that while mercury levels were unusually high, there were no immediate side effects in consumers, and that when retested a few months later, patients showed extreme decrease in those levels, and by 2009 showed no signs at all. My opponent claims that dolphin hunting has also been a tradition in Japan since only the 1900s, though this data is false. Dolphin hunting has been a strongly held tradition passed down through generations since the 17th century, and Taiji in particular has held a well-known reputation as a whaling town since 1675. The population of Taiji, roughly only 3,000 people, is in fact very reliant on their dolphin hunts. The Taiji economy profits an estimated 40 million yen every year they conduct these hunts, and the bulk of that profit is generated from the sale of live animals to aquatic parks and military programs in the United States, who pay out between $40,000 and $150,000 per animal sold. Ceasing the hunts would deal a massive blow to the Taiji economy, leaving the already modest income fisheries with even further financial woes. Finally, my opponent has stated that global perspective of Japan is in jeopardy if these hunts are not stopped, though this is also a complete fabrication, as Japan is the fourth highest country in the world in terms of global opinion. Continuation of the drive hunts in no way risks political engagement with foreign powers, as it is a highly regulated process with strict standards and limitations, only having potential to raise qualms with activist organizations who do not represent countries in the political theater, and is no more an act of aggression than the U.S.'s own practices of harvesting livestock. Counterplan. I believe that instead of further encumbering the United Nations with this task, an alternative method should be pursued. The Solomon Islands, also a culture that practices dolphin hunts, has discovered that it is more and more costly every year to continue hunting these animals, as dolphins are staying further away from the areas the hunts are conducted, as they are extremely intelligent animals and know where a threat persists. The Solomon Islanders have instead began subsidizing their dolphin hunting methods with more traditional methods that are focused on harvesting other fish that are more commonly consumed the world over. This has allowed them to enter stronger industries when exporting these fish, with much higher profit for their country, and lower the international attention on their dolphin hunts, which has strengthened their reputation in the global eye. Impacts of Counterplan. By encouraging and allowing the fisheries in Taiji to explore new methods, this will allow for the dolphins to remain far away from being classed as an endangered species and prevent the growth of a black market in illegally harvested dolphin goods that would spring from costly protection efforts. This would in turn prevent the necessity to create organizations specifically focused on protecting endangered dolphins, as well as the individuals that would need to be employed to enforce those efforts. Finally, the counterplan would also deter any international tension that would arise from outlawing Japanese tradition and keep Japan comfortable as an influential member of the United Nations.